All right, now, before we talk about the trailer for Mission Impossible 7, the Bob's Burgers movie premiered in theaters this past weekend. As Bob and Linda struggle to handle the economic woes of Bob's Burgers, the Belcher kids try to solve a mystery that could possibly save the family restaurant. Now, as someone who, within like the last couple months, like really got into the show, I'm on season 9 already. You know, I've really like developed such an affinity for the show. I never felt like I was just watching an extended episode. And when it comes to a lot of like movies that are based on TV shows, especially like long running, like, you know, animated sitcoms, there's definitely that risk that it falls into that sort of territory. But I never felt like that with this film at all. It definitely kept the spirit of the show. It was very funny. The dialogue, of course, was witty, and it was witty in a way that felt like, you know, it was like a Bob's Burgers, you know, entity in a way, a Bob's Burgers project of some kind. The callbacks to the show were very well done. But at the same time, it felt deeper and even more cinematic than a typical Bob's Burgers episode, which I really wasn't expecting that nearly as much with something like this.
Yeah, the Bob's, like, I know you're big into Bob's Burger. I haven't really watched a ton of Bob's Burger, but from what I have watched, it definitely seems very witty, very funny, and I definitely got a sense of that in the movie, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I had a fun time. I had a good time. It's that movie where it's like, if you're a Bob's Burger fan, honestly, I think you're gonna enjoy it. It's like they don't stray away too much from what Bob's Burger is. They keep it in line. The comedy is there. The weirdness is there. And it's like it's hard to say it was horrible or anything like that or bad. And I've heard occasions when I left the theater that some people weren't big on it, and I was shocked. Didn't really ask why, because I kind of just kept going my way. But for me, it's dumb fun. Again, had a good time and had heart to it. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, you know, and I think much of that heart comes from the fact that the further development of the characters in the film, like dive deeper into the insecurities of all of them, like, you know, throughout the course of the story, especially the kids. And I also liked too that I felt like certain characters felt enhanced after finishing the film, because again, they dive deeper into really all of them. There are certain characters I definitely like more. You know, Mr. Fish Odor, the landlord. I think he was funny before. I like him even more now. But like character wise, like there really wasn't a sour note in this movie other than the villain. And I'm like, it's a comedy villain, so like I'm kind of like, you know, let it slide. But I still felt like he was, I don't know, he was kind of meh. Like, you know, the real reason to watch this show or this film is really because of like all the other characters. Like, I thought the characters that they included in this film were incorporated and done well. I thought they were done very well. But the villain, like I said, even though he's a comedy villain, I just didn't really feel like he was entertaining. I'm not asking for like the superimposing force, but I kind of just feel like, you know, he's kind of there. Yeah. He's like, anytime like he was on screen, I'm like, all right, I kind of want to get back to these other characters too. And again, maybe that's a little bit of an unfair comparison because, again, like, you know, these other characters have had, I believe, 10 or 11 seasons now to develop. So, of course, as someone who's been watching the show, there's more of an attachment to them. But I feel like even then, like this new character, Grover Fishoder, who's the landlord, or excuse me, the cousin of the Belcher's landlord, he's kind of just He's, you know, he's not really memorable. Like, I'm going to forget about him within like a week or so.
Yeah, I mean, like, speaking of the villain, I do agree he is a stupid comedy villain. But for me, I thoroughly enjoy that, mainly because there are just certain instances where it's just like, why keep doing it? Especially one scene where he kept going up and down the steps, and I just had to laugh. So I was just like, this is pretty funny. And then another one was how he walked that just cracked me up. So, I mean, yeah, he was a stupid, silly villain. But again, honestly, my expectations were pretty low in this movie. So that's why it's like, yeah, I'll see, you know, dumb fun, have a good time sort of thing. And I got exactly that. So, like I said, I'm not expecting so much.
My expectations for this movie, again, as a fan of the show, were actually somewhat high. And this movie just about met, if not exceeded them a little bit, because I knew that it was by and large like the same people that had been working on the show, like they were coming back to do this film. So I'm like, okay, like, you know, these are the people that know these characters in the past. They're going to know how to really expand them for the big screen. I do feel like they did that very well. One of the things that I feel like separates this movie from like a typical Bob's Burgers episode 2 is that like certain things, again, just felt deeper. Like I mentioned before, like the insecurities of the characters and just like diving into more territory with them, but also the fact that it's a murder mystery too. It ends up being that. And I'm like, okay. And like certain things that they depict and how they go about telling certain things, I'm like, all right, like it's not really like, like intense. Like it's definitely not intense or anything like that. I'm like, oh, okay, this is like just a little bit heavier than a typical Bob's Burgers episode. I like that. It feels different. And that's one of those reasons why I'm like, okay, this doesn't feel like just an extended episode of the show.
Yeah, definitely had a lot of fun with this. Kind of wish it was on a streaming service, to be honest. That's just me personally. But still enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do feel like if you're a fan of the show, then you will more than likely enjoy it. I went with everybody. I went with four other people, and we're all fans of the show, and the reactions all around like seem to be pretty positive. So I do think this is definitely, of course, like more targeted for people that are fans of the show. But for everybody out there, what are your thoughts on the Bob's Burgers movie? Does it actually justify its existence? I personally believe that it does. Or did it feel like an extended episode? Or did it feel like an actual movie itself? Leave your thoughts wherever it is that you can.